What's going on, everybody? It's AG here. Today, we're going to be taking a look at my preseason college football playoff predictions. We were about, 2 or 3 weeks out from week 0 now. It's slowly approaching. Last week, I did my preseason college football top 25. So today, we're going to do the predictions for the playoff. Little revamping of the system as far as the playoff is concerned. So no longer are we going to have that goofy, like the top four seeds have to be conference winners. Okay. So now we can have the legitimately top four teams that are pretty much the top four in the top 25, that get the top four. So let's go ahead and take a look at it. We'll start at number one. There is a little movement since the last time because when I put out my way too early playoff predictions, that rule was not in place. So I had like a Big 12 team at 4 and so on. So starting off at number one, Georgia. Right now, I think there are 3 teams that could win the SEC. Georgia is one of them. The other 2 we'll talk about here in a second because they are still in my playoff. But Georgia, I think, has got a good shot to go undefeated. And I would say Texas is probably the other best team right now in the SEC. Excuse me, but Georgia, I think, will be able to beat them in the regular season and be able to not play Texas again in the championship. But we saw last year Texas couldn't beat Georgia anyway, so it really wouldn't matter. But Georgia, I've got it number one because I think they're going to go undefeated. If you can go undefeated in the SEC, you deserve to be number one. And they have some question marks, but I think Gunnar Stockton looked good enough in the playoff last year that I think Georgia's going to be fine with him at quarterback. The real question is the skill guys around him. They didn't look too good, but they're going to have a good O-line. They're going to have an awesome defense with a ton of NFL talent. Georgia, number one. Ohio State coming in number 2. I've got them with 1 loss right now, but I've got them winning the Big Ten. Their 1 loss, I've got to Michigan in the regular season. We've seen, unfortunately, time and time again that Ryan Day struggles with Michigan. So I've got Ohio State losing to Michigan in the regular season and then getting their redemption in the Big Ten championship. But Ohio State, you could argue the 2 best players in the country, Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, they have to replace a ton of talent from last year, but Ohio State, easy enough schedule. I think they'll come in at number 2. Number 3, South Carolina. 3 and 4 might be a surprise for you, but South Carolina, I've got with 1 loss in the SEC championship to Georgia. Go look at their schedule. No reason South Carolina can't go undefeated. We saw how close they were last year to making the playoff anyway. Lenore Sellers, I would argue, probably who I would pick if I had the number 1 pick in the draft next year. He has all the tools, I think, to be a legitimate quarterback prospect. He can run. He can pass. He's a big body. He can kind of do it all. South Carolina, really good chance they go undefeated this season. Number 4, Michigan. Another surprise that might be here. Now, to clarify, do I think South Carolina and Michigan are the 3rd and 4th best team in the country? No. We'll talk about that at the end of the video. But I think their paths, schedule-wise, really have them with a good shot to be in these seeds because they're probably going to go undefeated in the regular season. South Carolina has a better chance than Michigan. Michigan, this is banking on them beating Ohio State. But even if Michigan doesn't beat Ohio State, I think they're going to be in the playoff. Their defense is going to be good again. They're going to have a run game. They're not going to have as inept of a quarterback room as last year. They have 2 legitimate options that I think can carry them to the playoff. Last year, they went 8-5. If they would have had a quarterback that could hit the broadside of a barn, they probably would have been in the playoff anyway. They've got Bryce Underwood coming in, 5-star quarterback. You'll remember him, committed to LSU, ended up backtracking, going to Michigan. Michigan's got a good chance here to be in the playoff. I think they can beat Ohio State once again. So I've got them beating Ohio State in the regular season and then losing to them in the Big Ten championship. Now, the good news for them is even if they, lose to Ohio State and then lose to them again in the Big Ten championship, they're still going to be in because they're not going to punish them that much. But the rest of their schedule, very manageable. Other Big Ten teams that might could get in to that Big Ten championship is Penn State, but luckily Michigan doesn't play Penn State, so they kind of got lucky there. But I think that win over Ohio State is going to carry a lot of value there. All right, so we'll keep going in order. Number 5, we've got Clemson. Clemson, ton of NFL talent. This is Dabo Swinney's best team he has had since Trevor Lawrence left. And go look at their roster. They've got 6 guys that could legitimately go in the first round of the NFL draft next year. Clemson's pretty stacked. We saw last year that even though they struggled, at the beginning of the season versus Georgia, they are much more capable of any team in the ACC with playing with other teams. They kind of gave Texas somewhat of a game, and all these guys are back. Cade Klubnik has started multiple years now. This roster for Dabo, I like it. I think they can go undefeated. The only hiccup there, they play South Carolina. So I've got them with one loss to South Carolina right now. Uh, I think that's going to knock them back as far as being number 5. But the good news is South Carolina is going to be really good. So even if you do lose that game, you're still going to probably be in the top 5 as long as you do what you need to do in the ACC. But they could definitely beat South Carolina. And if that happened, you would see them at probably number 2. All right, so we'll stick in number order here. Number 6, we've got Texas. I've got them with 2 losses right now. Really tough schedule. They open in week 1 with Ohio State at the Horseshoe. That's a brutal get go. But Texas, back-to-back years, the past couple years with Steve Sarkisian, they've been one play away pretty much in both games from making the national championship both years. Made the semis, barely lost. Backtracked a couple years ago against Washington, they were completely out of that game, and then somehow like a couple onside chaos happens. I think Washington's running back got hurt to where they somehow had time left on the clock, but Texas had a chance to go score and win it, or at least send it to overtime, and couldn't happen. Last year, similar situation. They run a toss into the boundary, questionable play calling, but Texas roster is loaded once again. They got to replace Quinn Ewers. That's the big question mark, and I know he kind of gets a lot of flack, but Quinn Ewers being able to lead Texas to 2 semis, really impressive stuff. Uh, Defensively, they're going to have a top 5 defense in the country. Offensively, loaded with NFL draft talent. Arch Manning at quarterback. He's a little more of a question mark for me than he is a lot of people because he looked good, but it was against bad competition. Running back room, you could argue they have one of the best in the country. CJ Baxter, Trey Wisner. They brought in some transfer portal pieces at receiver. They have to replace those and tight end. If they can do that, though, Texas is in good shape. I've got them losing to Ohio State and Georgia. Number 7, Iowa State. Now, Iowa State, I think they have a shot at going undefeated. I think I actually might have them undefeated right now, if not with one loss. So if they go undefeated, they could easily move up a little bit. It's just the other team's strength of schedule, I think, will outweigh it a little bit. But Iowa State, we'll see week 1 because week 1, there's a week 1, is it week 0? I think it's week 0, actually. The 2 Big 12 teams I have in the playoff are playing each other week 0. So we're going to know a lot about the Big 12 race pretty quickly. Um, Iowa State, though, I think this is probably Matt Campbell's best team he's had there. You know, you've got a ton of returning talent that has started for you multiple years, especially in the backfield. They've got 2 running backs that can really go. Iowa State, I think, wins the Big 12 this year. Number 8, Miami. Mario Cristobal is a question mark, but we saw last year how talented of a roster he can build at Miami. And Carson Beck at quarterback coming over from Georgia, not going to be as flashy as Cam Ward, not going to be the first pick in the draft next year, but he wins a ton of ball games. I've got Miami losing 1 game right now to Clemson. They played Notre Dame pretty early, so we'll know. I think they played Notre Dame week 1, actually. So we'll know a lot quickly about Miami. Number 9, Penn State. So actually, Penn State, I have not on here, but in my preseason rankings, go check that out. I'll put a link to that at the end of the video, but I have Penn State ranked number 1. Roster is absolutely loaded with talent. You've got Drew Aller back at quarterback. You've got, I would say, probably the best running back room in the country, probably the only one better than Texas. You've got Allen and Singleton back there. Defensively, they brought Ohio State's defense coordinator in, Jim Knowles, so that defense is going to be good, even better than what it usually is, and it was already a top 5 defense, so that's probably going to be, I would say them and Texas are pretty similar in that regard, that I have them, spoiler alert, 1 and 2 in my preseason rankings, but I've got them losing regular season games. I've got Penn State losing to Ohio State, and the rest of their schedule, I've got them ranked a little lower right now just because they don't have the quality of wins that some of these teams are going to have. But if you were to ask me right now who I think is going to win the national championship, it's Penn State. They should have won, they shouldn't have won it last year. They should have won the national championship last year. I thought they should have beat Notre Dame. They didn't. Their roster was way too talented, though, to not beat Notre Dame. So Penn State, I've got coming in number 9. Moving back to the right, number 10, we've got Alabama. Alabama, their schedule, I think, lays out really nicely for Bama because I have some question marks about Kalen DeBoer at Bama. If he couldn't win with the roster he had last year, it's going to be tough for him to improve, I would say. But for like a half or a quarter against Georgia last year, they looked like the best team in the country. But after that, it just went downhill quick. Now I'm going to give Kalen DeBoer the benefit of the doubt here. He's had a couple off seasons now to get his guys in the program. mold this team into what he likes instead of kind of a mix mash of Nick Saban's team. We saw at Washington, Kalen DeBoer is a legitimate coach. He can get teams to the natty, teams that have a much lesser pedigree than Bama. So Bama, Kalen DeBoer, I think they're going to be all right. Number 11, Kansas State. Chris Kleiman, I've got them losing only to Iowa State right now. So this is them with one loss. Make that two losses, excuse me, both being to Iowa State. Once in the week 0, once in the Big 12 championship. Kansas State has Avery Johnson back at quarterback. They've got a good running back. They've got a really good roster that I think Chris Kleiman has built. Chris Kleiman is he's a winner, but he's not been as flashy the last couple of years because they've had like some 8-9 win seasons. But Kansas State, I think this is the year they get over the hump. They get in the playoff. Number 12, I've got Miami of Ohio as the G5 representative right now. There's a few teams kind of fighting for that spot. You've got the Naval Academies, Navy, Army. You've got Boise, Tulane, UNLV. But right now I've got Miami of Ohio. I think they have a really good schedule. I think they're going to have one loss. But the problem is for other schools in the American, they're all going to beat each other. Like Memphis, Tulane, UTSA, Navy, Army. All those teams are probably going to beat each other. Miami of Ohio starts off with 2 Big Ten games. They've got Wisconsin and Rutgers. I think they'll lose to Wisconsin and then beat Rutgers, which will be a nice resume boost. And then I think they'll run their conference. So if they lose in week 1, by the time we get to week 10, week 11, week 12, people are going to forget about that, and they're going to see, oh, they only lost 1 game, and it was to Wisconsin, which is probably a bowl eligible team. 7-8 wins. Miami of Ohio, pretty consistent as of late. They've also got Daquan Finn coming in at quarterback. You may remember him from Toledo a couple years ago. Transferred to Baylor, didn't work out, but he is a dual threat guy that can win a lot of games by himself. They're not going to be able to beat Clemson, but as far as like beating the crap out of the conference teams, the lower conference teams, I think he's definitely capable of that. Probably will put up some like Heisman type numbers. But as of right now, this is my preseason college football playoff predictions. We'll see what happens. If you were to ask me to play it out right now, I'd say with the layout of this, the Final Four would be Penn State versus Clemson, and then Ohio State versus probably Texas, and then probably a Penn State-Texas matchup in the championship, but definitely an intriguing Final Four, which would, I don't know, could go either way. But I think right now the team that is going to win the national championship is going to be Penn State or Texas, but I would lean Penn State. But those are my preseason college football playoff predictions. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments section. Who is not on this list that you would add? Because, there's some honorable mentions. Florida, Georgia Tech is another one I think is going to have a really good schedule. A lot of people are going to say Notre Dame, Oregon. I would lean more USC than either one of those teams, but we'll see. But who is not on this list that you would add, and who is on this list that you would take off? Let me know. Comment down below. Make sure to like this video, and most importantly, subscribe.